Sderot, SABC News, London.
The plight of people in a town where a bomb may explode at any time is yet to be exposed. During the Gaza war, many believed that mortar bombs were thrown from Gaza into a small town of Israel, and Israel struck back and innocent civilian lives were lost on both sides. The United Nations set up the Goldstone Commission to investigate the matter under South African Judge Richard Goldstone. His report was rejected by both Israel and the United States after it was seen as controversial and biased. Now, with us in the studio is Noam Bedein, who is the director of the Sderot Media Institution, and he's here to talk to us about life in the town of Sderot and how is the situation seen from both sides by the international media. A very good morning to you and welcome to World Today.
Thank you, Colin.
Well, first of all, tell us about the life of a person who is living in Sderot, walking about any time during the day.
Well, the honest truth is Sderot is located 1 kilometer away from the Gaza border. It just means that every time a rocket's been fired from Gaza towards Sderot, you have 15 seconds or less to run for your life. So basically what goes through your mind almost every single day when you leave your doorstep is when and where the siren is going to go off, where's it going to catch you, if you'll have enough time to run for shelter, and where the rocket is going to explode.
Now, every time when people are saying that the rockets are fired and people hit for shelter, how's the warning sounded?
Well, basically, you have a loudspeaker, a woman saying color red, which basically indicates that the rocket is on its way. They turned Sderot, what's so-called considered the bomb shelter capital of the world. Israel invested over $125 million to be putting entire bomb shelters around the town. And basically, people have a secured room or less to basically run for their lives.
Now, for a situation like that, when a mortar bomb is thrown into Sderot and then Israel hits back, many people see that as a balanced war where one strikes and the other one retaliates. But in reality, is it like that?
It's understanding the concept about this region. The southern part of Israel, the southern western part of Israel, became the only region in the entire world where rockets and missiles are being fired and threatening civilian populations. The question is not to ask what Israel needs to actually do, is actually the question to ask anybody who actually is hearing us or listening to us, is what would any other country in the world will tolerate even one rocket being fired towards a territory? And that's, as a matter of fact, what's going on the ground.
Now, most of the time, I've spoken to several Palestinians, even on this show before, and they always say that the response or retaliation by Israel has always been harsh. I don't know actually how to strike a balance between one who strikes and the other one who retaliates when civilian life is lost on both sides. But I just want to understand, like you have, for example, a piece of a rocket there, the remains of a rocket. In your presentation at the Goldstone Commission, what is it that you said?
Well, the truth is, after showing this piece and showing a short video of children running for their lives into a kindergarten, into a bomb shelter, I basically picked up my hands and I tell people I do not have enough fingers on my hands to count the amount of times that rockets exploded just a few meters from a kindergarten packed with children. And the hardest question living in this town, Sderot, for the past 4 years is asking the most basic question: why is it that we have to wait until a kindergarten or classroom will get hit by direct hits in order for us, Israel, to have the international support and sympathy to do what is right and protect own citizens?
Now, the report was rejected as controversial and biased. Why do you think ultimately when actually both sides were interviewed, there were testimonies forwarded before, but then Israel and the United States ultimately said they wouldn't like to associate themselves with that report? But Judge Richard Goldstone said that that report was fair.
Well, the truth is the Israeli government has boycotted the investigation because it was completely biased against Israel, or already claiming that there have been war crimes in Gaza. Now they just have to find out what are their war crimes. So here I am as a private person presenting a private organization, Sderot Media Center, presenting in half an hour, 8 years being under rocket fire, like no other place in the world, understanding the background of the judges themselves. One of the judges, the Professor Chinkin from London, called out during the Gaza war that Israel has no right to defend itself, and any acts that it does in Gaza is an act of war crime. And here she is, a judge who's supposed to be neutral and objective to what I have to say. That is why, as a formal body, as a government, Israel government needed to boycott this investigation.
Now, you are going around the world trying to present this. Do you think presenting it from the perspective of Israel? Because I'll tell you one challenge that we have as a media. When we talk about Israel and Palestine, we have to actually be balanced in our approach. Now, as you go around telling people about the plight of the people of Sderot, would you say that they would deem you as a biased person?
Well, I definitely get that. Definitely. Well, I try to present as a humanitarian this part of the region, this part of the story by living in Sderot over the past 4 years. 4 years experiencing over 3,000 rockets have been fired towards my town. But in the same time, I always mention what's happening on the other side. And I think this is the most important statistic. People have to memorize and to understand the definition of terrorism in the 21st century is basically targeting civilian population while that target is being amongst civilian population. You know, according to the Air Force commander of Israel, 97% of these Qassam rocket targets are being fired from among the civilian population in Gaza. Meaning these rockets will be fired behind the homes, behind the residential areas, behind the neighborhoods. So if Israel has to defend their citizens by hitting that target in Gaza.
Okay, just very quickly, tell us who you're talking to today. Who are you going to be addressing?
Today, well, first of all, I was invited here by SABC, that's the South African Union of Jewish Students, and the student body camera to give presentations around the country to counterbalance what's called the Israel Apartheid Week. I'll be speaking today in Wits at 1:15 in the afternoon, with the challenge to present this side of the story and not give maybe solution, but to present this side of the story.
Okay, good luck.